I'm such a boomer. I'm so bad at this. Hello, Hal. How's it going, my friend?
How you doing?
Yo, what's up?
I'm pretty good. Welcome to the show. It's
I've been watching since you went live, and I was watching last night. And it was a hell of a show.
Thanks.
Crazy stuff.
It was unexpected, but it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
How did? Do you mind if I ask? I mean, was this somebody you just ran into on Twitter, or who was this guy exactly? The Shane, whoever it was.
I still have no idea who this guy is. I was on Twitter yesterday, and I mean, I get notifications in all these different threads about people saying, these guys don't have a case. They're all stupid, and their dumb internet lawyer doesn't know anything about the law. So of course, on occasion, I'll respond and just with simple things like wrong, 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 wrong. And this guy decided to fight back, and I've never talked to him that I can recall before yesterday. But he was on a tirade yesterday, and then he said, "Well, why don't you bring me on your show?" Ha ha ha.
What I
That
found,
went real well.
what I found really, really interesting, aside from him Googling and using Wikipedia when he was arguing with you about legal issues, was like he felt so high and mighty. He was like, "I run 4 anime conventions, and if Vic will get on his knees and beg me, maybe I'll let him come
Yeah,
back."
yeah.
It's such a weird thing.
It was disgusting to hear that, honestly. It really was. I mean,
Yeah.
any convention that would seriously want Vic would realize that it's not them doing Vic a favor. It's they are having a huge opportunity to have Vic. I mean, barely any conventions are having him this year. If a convention like suddenly came forward, assuming Vic would be down, it would be huge for that convention.
I mean, not to mention that borders on the literal criminal definition of extortion. I mean, there's that problem too. Like, well, if you do these things, I'll do this thing of value for you, which is value also for him, of
He was
course.
trying to get to sign contracts and whatnot.
Right.
Well, was he trying to do like some weird reverse psychology? Like when I watched a stream last night and he was talking, and maybe I'm misremembering this, but I'm fairly certain this was what he was trying to get at. He kept saying things like, "Oh no, I'm a big Vic supporter. I'm in Vic's corner. You don't understand. Vic and I are best girlfriends. We have sleepovers together and braid each other's hair, and all of this stuff. And I'm going to send an email to him right now. Don't you worry. Right when this stream is over, and he's going to come to all 4 of my anime conventions."
Yeah.
And then he's on Twitter today, basically, talking badly about Vic, talking badly about you, saying that he needs to, admit to all these horrendous things and be repentant. I mean, you trapped him really well last night when he walked right into it. He was like, "Well, Vic's basically got to, admit wrongdoing." Well, wrongdoing for what? "Oh,
Right.
well, yeah, that's not important." Well, I thought you're a supporter. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I don't. And when I mentioned what he's been accused of, he's like, "Look at how mean you are being to him." It's like, that's not my accusations. Clearly, that's the accusations of people that have been going on for the past month, and some would argue longer than that. That's what they're saying, and yet here he is, Vic's best friend, won't even name the specific thing he's supposed to apologize for, probably because he knows that he does not know Vic in any sort of way beyond he met him at a con. I mean, imagine if you met Vic in a hallway somewhere and thought, "I know him, he's my best friend." Like that's how embarrassingly sad that guy's life is.
It borders on creepy. Like, yeah, he was acting like, "Oh, this guy signed an autograph for me once, so now we're best friends and I can talk on his behalf." And it was just really, really bizarre.
It was creepy.
Yeah.
It is creepy that this guy is in charge of conventions, or at least somewhat has power in some. I mean, that's just horrible to think about. And,
Well,
and there's only one guy. I mean, there could be other people we don't even know that are just like that, also in other conventions.
Right. Like, is he representative of what these people that are kind of coming down on Vic are, want him to do all these things and jump through all these hoops like some kind of trained poodle? Is that mindset this guy has? Is that prevalent among them all? Because it's really weird.
I can tell you, I talked to someone who claims, and it's Twitter, man, so you never know, right? But this person claims to have been a longtime associate of that guy, of Shane or whatever, and working the convention circuit with him, organizing conventions himself. So he has, what he says, 15 to 20 years of professional contact with Shane. And he basically said that he is fully believes that Shane probably is talking to the anti-Vic voice actors, and and that they may have had some involvement in whatever was going on last night.
Oh, I have no doubt. The way that guy acted, the way he went about the entire conversation, the things he said, he is 100% not on Vic's side. That's my take on it.
The funniest thing,
100% not on his side.
funniest thing is when he said the chat was on his side. Dude,
self-awareness has decreased.
Yeah, like how the heck did you think? How did he get that idea? He must not have even looked at the chat. Like if he even glanced at it for a second, he would have known that was not the case.
Right. I think he was talking about his Discord. I think he was looking at his Discord and like, no, they agree with me. Clearly, I'm winning this.
He might have been. He definitely used the wrong technology, but he seemed disconnected from knowing what was going on that whole time. So that would actually make sense.
And rumor has it, and I can't confirm this either, but rumor has it, his Discord was saying, "Shut up! You're doing this really poorly. You're doing terrible right now."
Actually, by the way, why does he have a Discord? By the way,
I don't think it's his. I think.
Yeah, it must have been.
Well, he's been trying to infiltrate the Rise and Bull Rangers, the Vic fan club. He's been courting / harassing the moderators. So here's this guy harassing who, by all accounts of everybody, the moderators of Vic's fan club are just underage girls that he has groomed. Right? So here's this guy. That's the accusation.
I'm just trying to picture this dude trying to go deep cover and blend in. Like, I watched him last night. Oh, can somebody explain how do you do that to a chair physically? Like, he must be shitting himself at least 10 times daily to melt leather off a chair like that.
Dude, you know what it is? He just doesn't get up. He probably just like rolls that thing to the bed and then just like slides off it, like you know what I mean, like every day.
Can you? Well, you have to figure in the amount of soy milk that he drank on stream. That's probably factoring into the digestion a little bit.
I love how he became a living stereotype with that. He was like, he's arguing with you and he's behaving like that, and then he's like, just a second, I want to make myself look better. I'm gonna go drink some soy milk and come back and argue with you.
I'm gonna get up in my gym shorts and walk into my kitchen that I'm broadcasting from, bizarrely, and grab some soy milk. And also, there's a shoe on my cutting board. What is happening?
Really? I not even noticed that. What the heck?
But yeah, I don't know. But the guy said, the guy who was talking to me today said, he's known him for a long time. He's been like this for a long time, so he's not surprised in his position. But he legitimately believes that the other voice actors opposed to Vic are talking with this guy. And I mean, to be fair to him, if he is truly an organizer, or he listed himself as Akon's organizer on his LinkedIn, although the Akon CEO would take some umbrage with that, I believe. I don't know how I would know that, but the Akon CEO...
I would be taking umbrage with associating with this guy at all. I'm amazed that people aren't pretending like I don't know who he is. We have no association with this soy drinking retard who went on stream last night and read Wikipedia articles and a lawyer.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. And so the CEO of Akon was like, this guy's full of it. He doesn't represent us. And then I have it on a very, very good, exceptionally good authority that Vic Mignogna does not even know who this person is.
He kept trying to pass it off last night, like they legitimately knew each other, that they were in contact with each other.
Yeah,
I mean, he even told you, he even told you, no, you get a hold of Vic's. What did he say? You get a hold of Vic's lawyers, and they can confirm that I know him, and we'll send you, And then I saw him on Twitter today, and he was like, "Well, here's the thing. I'll invite him to 4 conventions, but first he has to sign a contract, agreeing to our harassment policy." And then I think he responded with like, "Okay, well, has he seen it?" And he's like, "No, but he can go to my website and read it if he wants to." Well, you're best friends, right? Send it to him. What do you mean you haven't sent it to him?
Yeah, and by the way, a ton of people have Vic's email address. I think it's like listed on his fan page.
Yeah, it's open.
Yeah, he could have found it on stream. He's talking about, I gotta redact it. It's like, I would have said it, but he was struggling so hard, and I didn't want to help him. It's like he was the kid in The Sims swimming in the pool, and you take the ladder out.
Yeah.
But no, so yeah, he's obviously ridiculous. Although I do believe that he has some association with some of these people that they thought they were going to get something out of yesterday. My theory is maybe they were thinking that I would quote unquote admit to knowing Vic's legal strategy and spill the beans or something like that, as if I'm just some Mary Sue runner. I don't even know if that's the right term.
I think he was looking for like a soundbite. He was looking for like a gotcha moment where either you became unhinged and said something that he could be like, "Oh my God, look what this guy is saying," or he was looking for you to admit to knowing something that you're not supposed to know.
Yeah.
But he was so he kept lighting himself on fire that the only sound clip he would get is people laughing at him from the hour and a half of like the debacle that he put on.
Do these people not realize that it's my job to argue with people who put people in jail for their entire lives? It's my job to argue with a judge who has the authority to put me in jail if my argument is bad or disrespectful, I should say, if I'm in contempt. And it's my job to argue with people. People pay me hundreds of dollars an hour to argue with other people who are paid hundreds of dollars an hour to argue. Like they think I'm going to slip up in their argument with some guy in a 15-year-old chair in a trailer. Like what is their plan here? Are they miscalculating? Yes, they're obviously miscalculating this badly on everything.
If he really does have, like, if he's talking to other VAs, they really, if that's their best that they sent, oh man, they're in trouble.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
that's not good.
they're in for a bad time. I liked too last night how he was like, he almost said it when you were arguing with him.
Oh yeah.
When he wanted to, when he was going to say, he started saying alt, and then he stopped, and then it's like, bad people. I'm going to say bad people. It's completely different letters. I don't know how he jumped from where he was going to go.
He tried spinning it. Then he was like, people that the alt-right even wouldn't associate with.
Yeah. Okay. So Jim, what's your theory on why he was afraid to say caters to the alt-right? Because I mean, Bronx, of course, called me an alt-right lawyer. That worked out well for him. Other people have used the same thing. I mean, tons of people use this.
I think it's pretty easy why, personally, but
yeah. I mean, okay. So what's the thought on that? Like, why is he afraid to say the alt-right?
I think he knew it would expose him as not a Vic supporter, even though everything, like, it was obvious he was not really a Vic supporter, but he kept trying to pretend like he was. So if he started using, like, throwing around alt-right, talking about the viewers and whatnot, then it would be like, oh yeah, you're definitely not a Vic supporter. I mean, this is like what the other side's doing constantly. They call us alt-right. They call us homophobic. They call us all kinds of stuff that we're not,
Yeah, I'd agree with that take. And I think, too, I like one of his big points last night was, you're like, well, how do we do this if you're not going to do a lawsuit? And he's like, well, we have to stop the Twitter wars.
Yeah.
So, like, I have this like feeling like he didn't want to, like he was trying to tiptoe. He wanted you to say stuff. He didn't want to say it because if he says it, then he exposes what he really is. But if he gets you to say it, then he can latch on and be like, well, you're not aligned with the real values of why we're here. You're not really fighting for Vic. You're fighting for the alt-right. You know what I mean? But if he brings it up, then you're like, well, what are you talking about? We're here to talk about, what's going on. And I don't understand why you're bringing that up. He was so close to messing that up. He was so, I bet that's when the Discord he was talking to turned on him.
Yeah. Imagine unironically having the plan of getting Twitter people to stop fighting each other.
That'll work. Yeah, just ask them nicely. Hey, please stop. Give it up. Let's be nice.
Be there. Be there, guys. Be there.
We just need to like Rodney King meme that guy all day. Like, can't we all just get along?
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Real quick, guys. I'll be right back in literally like a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it was a brilliant strategy. I mean, listening to his bullet points examples of what to do. Well, first we need Vic to tell everybody he's a horrible rapist. then all we do is we stop the Twitter wars, and the next thing you know, he's working again. That's really all there is to it. It's a brilliant strategy come up for by the guy that runs 4 anime conventions.
Right, like 4 weeks, and he's in. No big deal. Oh, and so you noticed that he said, I asked him, okay, what convention, where's the venue, what's the date? And he named a convention, but he said that they hadn't picked a venue or a date. Well, right on the convention's webpage is a venue and a date.
Oh, yeah, I noticed. He was like, yeah, he tried to like, he was really weird. Anytime you tried to ask him anything specific, he got really vague about any answer that he would give.
Yeah.
So when he's mentioning all the conventions and stuff, you're like, oh, okay, well, when is that? And he's like, well, we don't know when we're going to do. Well, most anime conventions are pretty good about keeping the same date or generally the same time of year every year. So
Right.
it's really bizarre that he wouldn't be able to be like, well, even if it's not this specific date, we think it's going to be sometime, the second or third week of this month.
Right, of course, because they've got to plan it out with every other convention so that they can get the big names there.
Right. Yeah, they've got to work with a bunch of people's schedules, try to get a bunch of vendors together. I mean, it's like a big deal. So it didn't make a lot of sense that he wouldn't have at least some rough idea of when this was all going to go. It was so disastrous. The best part was when he Googled an article and was reading it, and you're like, no, wait, can you go back up 2 lines? And can you read that line to me? And you could, there's almost like this shift in it, just his expression and the tone of his voice, because he knew what line you wanted to go to. So he tried reading above it and then below it and then to the side of it. No, yeah, just the highlighted line. Read that for me.
Yeah, of course. Just the embarrassing display of pulling up tortious interference with contract after me saying not tortious interference with contract maybe 50 times. I lost track of it. And
I saw somebody else today arguing with you. Was it another one that wanted to have a legal? They're like, no, we'll wait for the court case, then I'll debate the law with you.
Oh, you won't even believe this guy. So this guy's got his own. He's got his own Encyclopedia Dramatica article already, because he's a long time.
Shocking. Who saw that coming?
Yeah, he's apparently a long time attention seeker. He's got a massive following of 886 on YouTube, and people are telling me that he's just trying to get some exposure, good or bad, which again, I don't think that's a viable plan. But he claims that he is a quote unquote magistrate. Now in the US, magistrates are either judges who are just assigned to handle small claims type matters, or sometimes they're even attorneys that will take a role outside of their jurisdiction for practice as a magistrate and handle small claims matters as a lawyer, but not as an official judge. So they don't have the same professional obligations because they're just little matters. If he was a magistrate, it was in the UK, where they're a glorified juror. So a magistrate in the UK is a volunteer position with zero legal training, who has you serve on a tribunal of 3 magistrates for small claims matters, and you have a legal advisor in the courtroom. So this guy is literally like, it's volunteer jury duty for 18 months because that's how the UK works.
Well, that's how you know he's a legal expert. He's so lonely and has so little to do. He volunteers for jury duty and he wants to argue on the internet with you about it.
Are you talking about the same guy or someone else?
This is NJ4K1.
It's another one. After seeing that massacre yesterday, the fact that somebody else would step up to walk right into the wood chipper amazes
Oh, that guy. Yeah, that fool. Yeah, dude, that guy.
And he's already dropped the hot legal knowledge and the solid constitutional foundation that says that that internal employee investigations are protected by the Fourth Amendment, which is not only irrelevant but flatly incorrect, because you don't have a Fourth Amendment protection in something that's kept as a business record by a third party. So that's just silly. We know this about cell phones, right? The numbers that you all dial on your cell phone.
Wait, why would he be citing American law to you if he's a British juror? Like, if he's a glorified juror over in the UK, why is he citing America? He wouldn't even have any real knowledge of it, would he?
Because these people have no grasp on the reality of their situations. They think, and again, people have no. I'm not disparaging people who don't know about American law. It's a disaster. And that's why people pay so much money and so much time to learn it, and then charge so much to practice it, is because normal people don't need to know it. So there's no shame in not knowing this stuff, but these people fancy themselves as experts because, well, I mean, for him, he literally says, quote, "I've spent more time in court than Nick," which is one, he can't verify that, and 2, even if he has, it's in a different system and completely irrelevant to anything we would be discussing.
I mean, who brags about being like spending thousands of hours in court as a juror?
This guy.
Yeah.
This guy does.
People usually try to get out of that, not trying to get in there as much as possible.
Semi-sentient zucchinis, I guess. I don't know. the guy is embarrassing. These people.
He backed out right away. Like I was watching that exchange, thinking, okay, you're going to get him on tonight, or you're going to get him on tomorrow, or something, and then he backed it up real quick.
Right,
It's like,
and
no, we'll wait for the court. We'll wait for the court. We'll wait for the court.
that was the dumb thing because I didn't. That he's like, yeah, I guess I could go on to Nick's show, and I'm like, I didn't invite you. So not really. And then he's like, look, if you want to have me on your show, and I'm like, no, you're not invited. So then he's like, okay, you're trying to bait me into being on your show. Nope. You weren't invited. You've never been invited. So then he's like, well, you're a coward and can't have me on my show, on your show. It's like, well, I mean, okay. Do you want to come on tonight? You've never been invited. I don't have a problem talking to you though. So he's like, no, we'll wait. It's like, wait a minute here.
So you actually did invite him and he ended up not wanting to come on?
Yeah, I mean, again, I had not invited him. He's talking about all this stuff. Someone else mentioned that maybe he would want to come on my show or something. I didn't even follow the origin that closely, but it's like, I don't know who you are. You're not even talking to me.
At the very end of the discussion, it left off with you actually offering it though, right? And then he said,
I said, how about tonight? Fine. And then he's like, well, no, it'll be when there's a court case. I don't want to discuss hypotheticals. It's like, well,
Chat, these people are so strange. Really, it gives me a headache just trying to understand the logic, like from so many different like people that are part of that other side. It's crazy.
It's bizarre, isn't it? Like watching, I've just been,
Really?
I haven't been super invested in this, and I just started paying attention, especially last night, like after that showing, like reading through their Twitter accounts and the interactions and what they're saying and stuff, and it's just really, really, it's a very weird position they're taking.
Mm-hmm.
And watching, and it seems like there's a fairly good amount of them that keep trying to do the like concern troll, almost like, oh, I'm really in his corner, but we need to get him to go to therapy classes. Like, what are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, everybody knows they're phonies, at least too.
Did you see? You might not, if you haven't been following this, you might not have seen it. But Monica Rial, the current voice of Bulma, her fiance, I guess, who literally said, I'd rather be a cuck with Monica Rial than not a cuck without her. That was his literal tweet. So you could tell where that guy's going.
Dude, it's not, I don't know. This is my personal opinion, but when a guy's saying that 5 years from now, I don't see them still. I'll let you guys, you know what I mean? You know what I'm getting at? I mean, we'll see.
I think it was during the 2016 election. I can't remember what account it was. I want to say the Reagan Battalion or something. It was a very anti-Trump group, right?
Sure.
And the cuck term was starting to kind of come into popularity, and they tried to own it basically in the same way that he was doing.
Ooh.
And they're like, "We're proud to be called cucks," and that tweet stayed up for like 20 minutes before they realized how bad that was. And then they pulled it down and tried to act like they never said it. Like that we didn't tweet that out. That doesn't exist.
Well, one proud cuckold has kept his firm pro-cuckery stance up on the internet this whole time. To his credit, Maddox still says there's nothing inherently wrong with being a cuckold.
Unless you're called a cuckold in court documents.
Then you sue the earth, right?
Then you sue them. I love it. He puts out I wish that had gone to trial. He puts out a video saying there's nothing wrong with being a cuck. It's awesome. And then he sues because somebody calls him a cuck. So how the hell is that going to work in court? And didn't it's just the entire situation around that was humorous.
Oh yeah, that's an ongoing disaster. And there's still a motion hearing for sanctions that's supposed to be scheduled. Last I heard, the judge Ramos, he retired, and so they got a new judge, and the judge was like, I thought this matter was ended. So then they had a hearing several weeks ago where Landau was there, Asterios' lawyer was there, and Munoz, the lawyer for Weber Shandwick, was there. They're the only parties to the motion hearing, all explaining to the judge why they still needed to have a sanctions hearing. And Landau was there trying to desperately explain why they don't, because he tried to get away from it by firing Maddox, and he's still there. So Maddox may still have to fly to New York to have a sanctions hearing, and he'll be represented by the lawyer he has broken up with, which will be. But he won't actually be represented by him because it's in Landau's best interest to put the blame on Maddox. So it's
and walk away from it. Yeah.
right. It's still a disaster. I'm just waiting for the announcement of that hearing. It'll be so funny.
I never understood why when he was choosing people to go after, because he went after Patreon directly, didn't he?
Yep. He went after Patreon, Weber Shandwick, Dick's company.
Well, it's a Patreon one that I love because they make enough money where they're not going to get a small time. You know what I mean? Like they're going to have legal representation that's not going to play games.
Was this the situation with the guys that got deplatformed off Patreon?
No. Do you want to explain who Maddox is to him?
I mean, if it's a long story, don't even. But.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Maddox back in the late 90s created a website called The Best Page in the Universe. It was massively successful. It was a satirical website. He wrote a couple books. The first book he wrote was very successful. It was called The Alphabet of Manliness. It's still a very, very funny book. And if you can find it at like a secondhand shop, it's worth the read. And then if you light it on fire and send a video to Dick, he'll send you a t-shirt. So it's also worth that. So that's Maddox's sort of history. Oh, and then he did another book called I'm Better Than Your Kids, which was an expansion of an article that he wrote that was very funny where he criticized children's art. But when he expanded that into a book, it turns out that it was only funny for one web page, not for, like 100-page book. So that book tanked magnificently. And then they contracted him for a third book. And that book has done embarrassingly bad. That was called F***CK Whales. And it did not go well. But anyway, so he later would do a podcast with Dick Masterson, who wrote a book called Men Are Better Than Women. And the podcast was called The Biggest Problem in the Universe. Each week they would bring in a problem each and argue why it was a problem. And then the audience would crowdsource via an online voting system what is the biggest problem in the universe. And
so
they would
be sure that they have different stances on it, or they would just
no,
take the opposite stance just for the sake of the debate.
At first, no. And then at second, when Dick basically made it into a contest, which rankled Maddox so bad that he started changing the entire format of the show. But they would at first they would just give their position for why it was a big problem. But then it became a little bit more of an argument later, which was funny for the audience. So that show goes on for 2 years. And then they break up. Inexplicably, the show stops, and Dick does his own podcast, and Maddox does his own podcast. And people are asking, like, what the heck happened? Because this podcast is very successful, very popular. And Dick says, artistic differences. And then after a couple weeks, he basically says, Maddox ended it. And then people start wanting Maddox to tell the story, and they don't. And so then it devolves into a kind of a back and forth flame war. And Maddox ends up making a video calling Dick a rape apologist and getting like actual commercials that he had recorded for Domino's and stuff like that canceled by sending them this video saying he's a rape apologist by taking a line from one of the shows out of context.
Oh, wow.
So then Dick just goes on and makes fun of him for like the next several months. Banter back and forth. Maddox can't handle that banter and sues Dick and Asterios, who is just a Greek comedian who goes on the show from time to time, and Trevor Burt, who's a guy who made a parody character called Mad Cucks, and then Weber Shandwick, who is Asterios' employer, Dick's company, which I won't name for his own privacy, and then the two other founders of Dick's company. They sued Weber Shandwick's general counsel. They sued that guy as an individual. They sued Patreon. They sued a Patreon customer service rep by the name of Jordan Cope. They sued everybody to the tune of somewhere between $20 million and $400 million. We don't actually know because the lawsuit was written so poorly that you can't tell. So that happened. He hired the most comically bad lawyer I've ever seen. The document that he drafted, it was so bad I thought Maddox wrote it and just paid someone to file it. And then we found out that wasn't true. And his lawyer has enough DUIs that he never gets to drive again. So that was a little embarrassing. And
he's giving me a run for my money. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I didn't want to say anything.
I'll go there. That's okay. I'll go.
But so he has now, mind you, this is a lawyer. And who has these DUIs. So you should be able to negotiate something out. I mean, that's your job. But whatever. the real problem with him is how bad he was at representing Maddox. And long story short, after costing everyone tens of thousands of dollars, it all gets dismissed by the angriest, like 80-year-old New York judge who appears to be a Trump supporter, which was even funnier. And when Landau is in court saying, "But he called my client a cuck," and the judge is like, "So?"
He really said that?
Yeah. Well, he said it means like a fool, right? We're not talking about a literal cuckold. We're talking about an idiot, a jerk, a dummy. And it was a massacre. But Weber Shandwick, actually, like you mentioned, Patreon hiring lawyers. The lawyer Weber Shandwick hired, Michael Munoz, was like 14 years on the New York Ethics Board. Like, he is the Boy Scout attorney, supercharged lawyer, a fantastic lawyer by all accounts. It was a mess, and Landau was completely ill prepared for it. Maddox should honestly be considering malpractice claims against him, because it was.
Well, the thing I found most interesting about it, like they had a really popular show together, and then they break up. And I think a large component of why that lawsuit happened wasn't just that Dick was teasing him, which he had every right to do after the crap that Maddox was doing. But it's that Dick was doing so wildly successful. When you compared their Patreons after the split, Dick was making like 20 to 25,000 a month, and Maddox was making like $800.
No, not even like 140.
Yeah, it was ridiculously. You could tell who the audience went with in that, and I think it drove Maddox crazy. Like, watching everybody go to Dick drove him insane.
Well, and Maddox is so poor at having his pulse or finger on the pulse of anything that he thought that the way they monetized their first show was through traditional sponsorship ads. And so Dick gets off of he starts his own podcast, and he's like, well, I'll try this Patreon thing out. And within a day has like $500 on Patreon. Within a week is well over 1,000. And it's like, they could have had so much money. They could have been Cumtown in a lot of ways.
How it fell apart? Or, I mean, it's speculation, I guess.
What was that?
Does anyone know exactly like what went wrong with the two of them?
Oh yeah.
I mean, like laughing like so hard.
Okay, so
what's going on?
Maddox dated a girl for a while, and then 3 to 4 years later, Dick met her at a wedding that Maddox was also at, a mutual friend's wedding. Met this girl who was not dating Maddox. Again, they've been broken up for 3 to 4 years at the time, and Dick took her home that night. Ooh. And then ended up dating her, still dating her to this day.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
And she's I've met her once. She's a very lovely woman and a very nice woman. But yeah, so that was it. A scorned lover.
That'll do it to some people.
You have to check out, like, everybody should listen to Dick's show because it's very funny. But the story about all this and reading Maddox's like breakup letter that he
that was fucking amazing in front of a live audience. That was one of my favorite moments. He gets up on stage in front of like, it must have been like 100, 200 people, and reads this letter from Maddox, this tearful letter, this heartbroken letter, and it was the funniest fucking thing I've ever heard.
And it's written on like a yellow legal pad that's not even like torn off evenly. Because you tear off a paper from a legal pad and it always goes diagonal. It's just how they're designed.
Oh my God.
And so he like hand wrote it on that and handed it to her. I mean, the level of tism in the Maddox is so high. So high.
So is this thing like resolved now?
No.
Or what? Still going on?
All of the lawsuits were dropped. The only thing left is that this story is so deep. In the lawsuit, at the very beginning, one of the allegations or one of the pieces of evidence that they used in the complaint is Maddox's side said that a journalist, and they put it in quotes, by the name of Heather S., who worked for a publication called Condé Nast. They're a huge publishing arm. They publish tons of fashion magazines and stuff like that. A journalist from Condé Nast had reached out to Asterios' employer, Weber Shandwick. Okay? Well, several months into the lawsuit, for some reason, Maddox, in a sworn affidavit, comes out to admit that Heather S. was actually Maddox.
It's a very big-brained move. Worked out well for him.
that he was posing as a journalist. Like, he identified himself as Heather S., who worked for Condé Nast, and sent the emails to Weber Shandwick, but it was him. He admitted to doing it. That's not only perjury for lying in that initial pleading is perjury for sure. But the best part is that that's also a crime in New York to impersonate a journalist for personal gain or to cause harm to someone else. And there is actually a Heather S. that works for Condé Nast. So it was this perfect storm of absolute nonsense.
This sounds crazy. Yeah, I'm so out of loop on this, but I mean that's crazy stuff. Most of it was like Maddox just kind of being a little nutty. Then it sounds like. I mean, I guess as an opinion.
If you want to, deep lore on this, I went through every single document. It's all in a playlist called the Lawsuit Saga on my channel.
Cool.
You can start. It's what started my channel in the first place. Was wow. I was like, this document's so bad, I'm going to get drunk and read it to people and post it to the Facebook group.
Is that how you started like the loss planning thing?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, well, now I got the backstory. That's dope.
Yep. So,
that's dope.
But anyway, man, that was a long tangent, but
yeah.
It just goes to show that the level of stupidity that people will go to for whatever reason, it's so much farther than you ever expect. And of course, Jim, you know this because you've been watching the internet for years and talking about it, but.
Oh, yeah, no, and especially with the majority, not all, but the majority of internet-based lawsuits like that, it usually ends up with somebody doing something really stupid and ruining it for themselves, or there's just no basis in reality for it. Or, like, who files a lawsuit about this kind of stuff? Sues everybody, sues major companies.
I love how he sued the service rep, too.
Right, and then admits, oh, by the way, I was impersonating a journalist, and I was doing all this other stuff, and it's just big brain moves from him.
Just know that the court recognized that there's an album produced, a Billboard chart-topping album called Cuxmas Carols with Santa Cuck. And they are Christmas carols with the words rewritten to include cuck as many times as possible. Asterios recorded the album in 24 hours, and it Billboard charted. So, and then that was used as evidence in the lawsuit. So there's a point in the transcript at one of the motion hearings where they're like, can you turn to page 72 or whatever? And the judge says, you mean the part about Santa Cuck? And it's like imagining an 80-year-old New York judge who's in the commercial division. So they're outside of the regular court and into the accelerated business only court because it involved these major companies going, all right, let's talk about Santa Cuck and Cuxmas carols. Oh God, it's so funny.
That is gold. That's like something out of a show. Like that's not even like real life, but
no,
it is real life though. That's crazy. Yep.
But real life is always funnier. Always funnier.
Oh man, I'm learning that more and more, especially this month.
So, but anyway, back to last night. That guy is out of his mind. These voice actors are out of their mind. None of them have any plan.
Did you see that he like privated his Twitter for like a good 30 minutes or I don't know, 15 to 30 minutes? He privated it.
I'm gonna guess he was deleting stuff. He was trying to get rid of stuff that's gonna make
because he made it public again.
Yeah, that's usually what they do. Yeah.
Yeah, if he was just trying to like hide forever, he would just left it private. But yeah, it was like for 15 to 30 minutes ish. So I'm kind of on the same page as you with that.
Yeah, he definitely deleted a lot. He was deleting things because he was very critical of Vic, and I think part of his plan was to get the narrative out that he was just for ending everything, but at the same time realizing that, oh my gosh, I've been spouting off on Vic negatively for the past like 3 days. So I don't know.
I wonder if anybody got a chance to archive it, because I'm going to guess if
a lot of it's archived.
Yeah, because I saw a lot of people screen capping the anti-Vic stuff from him. So I'm going to guess that people archived that. I hope they did. Usually you should do that before they go into delete everything.
I'm like 99% sure that is. I don't know about all of it, but I was looking at the archive earlier today, and there's a lot of Vic stuff on there regarding him talking about Vic.
Yeah, I've got so much stuff I have a dedicated email address just for this archive stuff.
That's a good idea.
And I have so many submissions that I have to go through.
Yeah, so that guy last night, I think, made it pretty apparent that there's a dedicated group. Depending on how far you want to say is they're dedicated to it, but it seems like he was working in concert with people. It seems like I don't know if they're trying to damage control it, if they're trying to shift Vic into a certain direction, if they're trying, I don't know exactly what they're trying to accomplish, but it seems
They
like they're working together to accomplish something.
they don't know what it is either. I mean, that's the real reality. They have played this wrong from the moment it started. I mean, if Funimation, for example, had never tweeted out anything about an investigation, if they had never tweeted out anything about not supporting or condoning harassment in the same Twitter thread, like immediately following the tweet that said they were cutting ties with Vic Mignogna, there'd be almost no case. It'd be like, sorry, Vic, peace out. If
They should have left it like Rooster Teeth did, honestly, right? Like just very simple, just like we are severing ties with the Mignogna.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you do any business litigation, any lawyer would say, you ask anyone, I can almost promise you that they did not consult their lawyer when they put out that statement. Because any lawyer would say, no, what on earth are you thinking? Why would we ever talk about cause for firing someone? We just say they're done. No one needs to know the cause. There's no purpose to it. So then you combine that with the ridiculous conduct of the voice actors, and then them disclosing that they were part of the investigation and then faking swats in the same breath.
Yeah, can you explain that to? Like I said, I followed this kind of at a surface level, but the faking SWAT thing. Can you explain exactly how that fits into all of this?
There's a how do we describe her? A rotund individual.
Okay.
What does that even mean? I don't even know what that means, honestly.
To quote Kiwi Farms, they
Well,
have
I can say it means she's a fat ass. I'm not associated with anybody
Okay.
here, so I'll throw that out. My
good man.
definition is fat ass for Otan, but go ahead.
To quote the Kiwi Farms thread, it says that they had to put the picture in landscape because portrait wouldn't capture all of her. So she is apparently on the investigation, self-professed on the investigation team at Funimation. However, what she did was she claimed that she was swatted. Just a couple days ago, claimed she was swatted. I can't remember
Was
her
this
name.
the woman on Facebook that posted a picture
Yeah.
and it turned out it was from 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, that's her
Yes.
exactly.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, okay. All right. This is the same one. All right. I think I get where we're going. Okay.
I mean, again, like you could just Google like shotgun doors, and of course, yeah, you know what cops always do? When cops are gonna bust down a door, they do a breaching round to the door handle, because that's how cops breach a home door. No, if you're getting swatted, pro tip, they're going to use a battering ram with 2 cops, and those guys are going to be covered. They're not going to use a breaching round, and you don't breaching round a door handle, you breaching round the hinges of the door. That's how you breach a door with a shotgun. But you don't actually do that to a civilian home because you don't know who's on the other side of the door.
Yeah, honestly. What I love the most is the way she said that, like, after the cops helped her fix the door. Dude, that does not happen. Like, dude, the cops don't help you fix the door after.
This reminds. Didn't she blame it on Vic fans that did this?
Of course. Yeah, of course.
It reminds me of what happened to Elon Musk when journalists were getting really angry with him. There was a female journalist. I can't remember what outlet she wrote for, but she got into an argument with him on Twitter, and they were having responses back and forth. And he caught her in some kind of lie or something she was doing that wasn't really above board and made her look stupid. And so in retaliation for it, she went out and said, look at all the harassment I'm getting from Elon Musk fans. That was her response. It's the fans of his that are doing this, not my fault at all.
It's always that's something that's been really prominent in these things. You know, with Comicsgate, it was Ethan Van Sciver's fans are attacking me, which is Ethan's fault because he controls them somehow. Diversity in Comics, his fans are going after people because he has some sort of control and therefore some sort of responsibility, which is of course ludicrous. And that was actually in Maddox's lawsuit. The vast majority of things that Maddox accused Dick of were actually perpetrated by quote unquote fans of Dick, although no verification that they were actually Dick fans.
The only time there'd be merit in something like that, right, is if that person literally like had a call to action, like, and told those people to do that specific thing, right? In that case, that would be a different story.
And maybe maybe. Like incitement is not this this thing that everybody thinks. Like if you just say we should kill all Irish people or whatever, that's incitement to violence. It's actually not. Incitement to violence is to target a specific person and have a reasonable belief that violence is imminently imminently going to occur to that person. So this goes back to Brandenburg versus Ohio, where the KKK is in downtown or in a park in Ohio saying, or in like Cleveland or whatever, saying that they should hang all the blacks. And they weren't using that term, obviously. They were using very unfriendly terms to YouTube.
Right.
But the Supreme Court's like, no, that's not actually incitement to violence, because it's a general statement setting out a political belief. As reprehensible as it may be, that's not actually incitement. Now, if there was a black guy there and they said, we need to hang that guy, different story.
Right.
But yeah,
well, so the cases too, like with Musk, Diversity in Comics, and Vic, they're not even doing it. Like, not only are they not doing it and saying to their fans, go out and do terrible things or go out and mess with somebody, they're not even doing it in a playful way like O&A used to do, where they're like, oh, wink, wink, don't go to this, a newscaster's Facebook page and say terrible things. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like they know what's being insinuated.
Right, but nobody's doing that. That's the craziest thing. And I remember seeing this lady's Facebook post, and then I remember somebody finding the same picture on her Facebook from like 3 or 4 years before that.
Dude, what was she thinking? Like, didn't even make a different account to like at least try and hide it.
No,
oh my God. Literally the same Facebook account.
Her name is even big, Samantha Inu Hart.
Yeah.
So that's who it was, because that's and again, this is someone who apparently Funimation says that they've made a hiring or firing decision based on her account, and within weeks of that happening, she's faking to the public a very serious thing. Like, again, if you're going to court against Funimation or any of these voice actors and they cite to the thing, you'd say, well, yeah, but they're willing to lie in public about a serious offense, an offense that has gotten someone killed in the last year, which is swatting. They're willing to do that. How credible are they? We can attack their credibility. And briefly, these big brains out on Twitter all think, for example, Jamie Markey and Monica Rial have said they've got 25 women willing to testify. They don't get to testify because what those women have said is irrelevant to what Monica Rial and Jamie Markey have said. So you don't get to just parade in a bunch of people to assassinate someone's character in court. You only get to do that on Twitter. You don't get to do that in court because
she's trying to give it like her mob rule, like bring them into the court, like the same like kind of thing.
Yeah, our justice system realized a long time ago that if you just have a brigade of people, that is not relevant to the issue at hand. It would only be relevant if you're challenging each of those people's statements. But if you've got 25 people to back up your claim, they're never going to testify. Ever. Maybe some of them will show up in deposition, and you know who they're going to depose because you get to pick the deposition. They're going to depose the dummy who decided to fake a swatting account, and they're going to have in deposition them saying, now, did you or did you not fake a swatting account on Twitter? Like, yeah, yeah, I did. Isn't it true?
She actually did try to spin it off as like, did you hear her excuse by any chance? It was like,
no.
She said something along the lines of like, well, what did she say? She said, I really did get swatted, but I didn't want to use current pictures because it would leak my address. So I used old pictures. That's like paraphrase. That's what she was getting at. It's like basically what she said.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, someone immediately contacted the whatever county she lived in, asked them for the swatting report, and they said there's been no SWAT team deployments.
Well, obviously that police station must be Vic fans. There are more Vic fans that are covering up this tragic event.
Right. Yeah. It's a disaster. None of these people have any plan. None of these people know what's going on, and they've all. I mean, you've got Monica Rial, I think, stating that she doesn't need a GoFundMe because Sony's lawyers are gonna Sony's got billions of lawyers or whatever, and they're really good.
And she was trying to talk shit on the people who donated to the GoFundMe.
Right.
She's like trying to talk shit on them and Vic, and like, you shouldn't take your fans much. Like, oh my god, these people are just going off.
So is this turning into a PR thing? Like, I can't imagine. So they're talking about we've got 25 women that are they're going to say all this stuff. Is this just bluster? They want to get out there and say like, look how bad this guy is. We have 25 women that are willing to talk about it, knowing that that's not going to happen in court, but just wanting to get some kind of a PR spin out publicly about it before this advances farther.
I guess, but it's weird because I think they're trying to save their convention appearances. In all honesty, at this point, that's what the voice actors have to be trying to do is, look, we know that if they win the narrative on this, that their convention appearances disappear. That might not bring Vic's back, but theirs is gone.
Marty did lose one already, I believe, right? Did you guys know about that?
Shockingly, if you say I want his head, I want his balls, to a very popular voice actor who has maintained his popularity in light of accusations of sexual assault, that they go, you know what, we don't want any of the drama here between these people, so we'll just cut you too. You're gone. That's where they are, and they're probably getting word from sponsors of these conventions who are like, we don't want this. We don't want this. We want people to come and spend money on little figurines. And anime DVDs. We certainly don't want people showing up with a hashtag #KickVic t-shirt coming to blows in like the windmill slap fest that would ensue at an anime convention between a #KickVic and I Stand with Vic.
Do you think that's going to advance to that point? I mean, are we going to see like voice actors up giving speeches at conventions with #KickVic t-shirts on and shit like that? Is that coming?
I don't know if they're.
I doubt it personally.
I don't know if I think the voice actors would be expressly disallowed from it, but we're talking cosplay here. So you wear a cosplay with someone with like a long robe or something like that. You get into the convention, you pull it off, and you've got a stand with Vic or #KickVic shirt on underneath. I think that's entirely predictable that you could in fact have like a stupid little mini battle line of each side screeching at each other in the middle of a convention.
I just don't see the VAs wearing like going around wearing shirts.
Well, I think the VAs would be told that if they do, they're gone.
Yeah, because that's.
But yeah, I mean the fans doing it and starting an altercation that leads to physical violence and makes the news. And I mean some of the sponsors of these shows are like Mattel, trying to sell toys.
Are we going to read news articles about 19 Naruto's injured in Kansas?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Or you might, and I do think it will be like that too. Like a lot of people are going to cosplay Vic characters like more intentionally. Like maybe not wear the shirt and everything, but I wouldn't be surprised if more people are like cosplaying like Ed and Crow and people like
some of the cons that are still supporting Vic are giving free admission to people who show up as Vic characters.
I heard about that. Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, it's I mean, all of the sponsors of these shows have to be worried about it devolving into violence because it'll make the news, it'll make them look bad, and they don't want their brand associated with it. So the fact that Monica Rial and Jamie Markey are out there laying out these very provocative and semi-violent tweets puts them in a bad light. Markey's suffering from it by losing one convention. We may see more soon. I don't know what I guess their PR is, if we've got people backing us up, then maybe we won't lose the spot. Maybe
But they see that numbers getting less and less, surely.
I mean, the fact that Funimation announced Vic's firing, Funimation's got a Twitter account of 760,000 followers, and they got like 20,000 likes on that. That's not strong support, especially considering Vic's announcement that he was lawyering up and there was a GoFundMe got something like 17 or 18K. And he has 100,000 subscribers. So I mean, you're playing a numbers game. He's got 6-1 support over Funimation's firing decision.
Well, the likes and retweets on Twitter, the amount raised with the GoFundMe, even the stream viewers you're pulling on, and other people are pulling on videos and streams related to this. They have to know where the support lays.
Yeah,
I mean,
if they don't, they're just blind or ignoring it.
Somebody in a boardroom somewhere in a suit has to be sitting down and thinking, "Crap,
Yeah.
How are we going to get out of this? Because this is not going to be helpful for our bottom line if it continues.
Yeah, but to be fair, that suit may have cat ears on it.
Possibly.
So my question to you guys, if someone like Jamie Marchi or one of these voice actors is on a public, like Twitter, social media, but they're putting that they're an employee of X corporation, are they not like representative of that company? Like, aren't they accountable somewhat to the tweets they're making?
They're in Texas. The Texas rules of principal and agency, or more appropriate, vice principal liability are extremely broad, and I think Funimation never saw this coming, because if they did, they would have had clauses in all of these voice actors' contracts that have a non-disparagement versus other voice actors policy in them. And if they were on top of this, which again, I think everybody miscalculated. Everybody thought, no, this is no one comes back from a sexual assault allegation.
Yeah, they
we're
thought it'd
fine.
be easy.
Yeah, we're fine. So we'll let them go.
And it's been like a growing thing. Like right away from the beginning, they had a lot more support than they do now. But it's been a combination of like the lack of evidence and the fake bullshit, like the swatting and the craziness on their side, like I want his head and all that stuff. It's like more and more people. By the point we're at now, I don't even know if we're the minority anymore. I feel like we're the majority, but I don't know for sure. But
Yeah.
I've definitely noticed a big change in the dynamic, though, for sure, as opposed to like when this was first starting.
Well, has Funimation lost its window? I know a lot of times when like bad PR kicks in and lawsuits are getting talked about, sometimes what a company will do is say, oh, well, you see, the person that runs the Twitter account or the employee that we have in charge of it or the company we have in charge of it spoke without our authority, so it isn't representative of what we want. But they left it up for far too long, right? They can't pull something like that as a deflection, can they?
My understanding is that it's still up, and that would be that's beyond it. That's beyond their. Yes, they've missed the window on that one. I think now their solution, if I had to speculate, is depending on what Vic wants, obviously. But if I had to speculate, Funimation's best course of action is to say, you know what, we will apologize. We will make a statement like you're suggesting, Jim, and say, you know what, we did not authorize the release of this information. This information is not correct. Our internal investigation was inconclusive, as was stated in the IO9 article, and that we will actually continue to work with Vic Mignogna as appropriate. And then, of course, behind the scenes, if I were his lawyer negotiating that out, I would try and get some guaranteed contracts on some specific roles that they could announce right away. Because to be brutally, like the Shannon, the man named Shannon from Rooster Teeth, who's tweeting today, he's like, well, how does he come back from this? What are they going to do? Are they going to undo the past? It's like, well, you know what? If the corporate entities, if Rooster Teeth and Funimation are willing to step back and say, you know what? These voice actors don't speak for us. We don't agree with their assessment. We made a decision based on some bad information, and that we are retracting that, and we will continue to work with Vic. If Funimation does that, if Rooster Teeth does that, then Vic's back at conventions in 12 months or less. Because
but what about the conventions he lost this year?
I don't know that there's coming back for most of those. Maybe some by the end of the year. It'd be hard to say.
I mean, is there still? Would you say there's still a potential like litigation then for those?
Oh yeah,
lawsuits?
Yeah. I would say there's litigation for any of them potentially. But what's gonna matter, and this is what these people don't understand, is that any lawsuit that they bring, they can, if they find just a smidge of evidence, they can depose and include as part of discovery subpoena requests for communications between any of these conventions and any of the voice actors or any of the corporate entities or anything like that. And more importantly, the corporate entities as part of a settlement. Like let's say Funimation wants to settle this. Part of that settlement might be, yeah, we'll actually, as long as you promise not to disclose it, we'll give you all of the communications we've had with any convention host, with any voice actor, with any other contractor. We'll give all of that to you to make your job in discovery easier going forward. Because
Didn't something similar to this happen in Comicsgate? I can't remember if it was Ethan or somebody else. They were going to have a comic published, and somebody in the business contacted the publisher and got it so they wouldn't do that. Because they were
Yes.
talking about
Yeah.
they were talking about how they basically said on Twitter we want to do it, but we can't because we've been told if we do. So it's kind of similar with the conventions, right? If Funimation were to release information or one of these entities were, and you see like, hey, a voice actor or somebody in the corporate contacted the conventions and said don't do it.
Can you imagine being Jamie Marchi or Monica Rial and facing the prospect of Funimation not only not defending you because they decide to settle with Vic, and because they realize that you're just an independent contractor and someone else, even we've all watched them. Well, maybe we haven't all, but if you haven't watched the movie Rockstar with Mark Wahlberg, you are replaceable. You're just a voice. So someone else can voice Bulma, right? And do a really good job, maybe even a better job. Someone else did voice Bulma already. So when they say you're an independent contractor, it's much less painful for Funimation or Sony to just say, you know what? Peace. Y'all deal with that. And not only that, here's all of the emails that Jamie Marchi and Monica Rial have sent to Funimation. And let's just see what happens to that defamation case when all of those emails you thought were private suddenly are in the hands of Vic's attorneys.
I see. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting.
And that could be, that I have no idea. I know that Vic's attorneys have been working on this already, which means that those settlement talks could already be happening. They could be scheduled for the next couple days. They could be a week out. We could see movement on that really quickly.
That would remove hypothetically, if they were going after like all the big guys, Sony, Rooster Teeth, Funimation, all of them, that would if they all did that sort of thing, that would remove Sony, Funimation, and Rooster Teeth from.
Yeah, if you're taking the position of let's say I decide I'm representing Sony,
but it wouldn't remove the VAs and people like maybe A&N and all those guys, they would still be at risk now.
Yeah, if I'm let's say I'm Evan Stone. Not porn Evan Stone, but lawyer Evan Stone representing Funimation. And I say, you know what? My duty, because everybody gets this wrong, the duty of the corporate lawyer is to the corporate entity, not to the board members, not to the CEO, not to the chairman, not to anybody else, but the corporate entity. My duty to protect Funimation says that if I can get out of this by issuing an apology, a retraction, disavowing these independent contractors speaking outside of the will of Funimation, admitting that they went off of information that turned out to be credibly dubious. They can do all of that very publicly and say, we're welcoming Vic back onto the team, and those people will deal with what comes to them. I mean, if I'm Funimation's attorney and that's the option on the table, I take it 10 times out of 10. What does Funimation have to gain from... I know what the voice actors have to gain from dragging Vic. What does Funimation have to gain from dragging Vic? Absolutely zero. They've got to have been watching the metrics as we were talking about before.
Yeah.
They've got to say, not only was this not super popular opinion is swaying against us. And I don't know if you've seen this, Jim, but Funimation's unsubscribe button for their paid service broke.
Really? From the amount of people using it?
No, well, I mean, they're just
hard to say for sure what happened.
Well, what I'm curious about is, I mean, it's one thing to speculate on which way they're going to go on this, but it just feels like with the amount of time that's passed, do you think it's part of their corporate culture to back something like this? I mean, it seems suicidal, but maybe this company is run by people that aren't the most intelligent.
Here's what I'm going to say, from what I've heard, and I have good sources on this. The Japanese have a huge amount of influence in what's going on at Funimation. Dragon Ball Z Broly, or Dragon Ball Broly is Super Broly or whatever, that movie is one of the best performing, if it's not the best performing US release anime, I don't know what is. It did 30 million domestically, 100 million overseas, or when you combine them, which is huge. And that 30 million comes entirely from the dub, pretty much, from Funimation. They have massive amounts of control. They have influence over casting decisions. And we're talking Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball, and Toei Entertainment, the owners of the Dragon Ball IP. They have influence over this stuff. And do we think Japan really care. Like, Japan is not a bastion of catering or pandering to Western sensibilities. Like, they tend to still have girls with giant anime titties running around, right? Like, so if Japan is run on dollars, period, or yen, as it were. They don't care about this. If they start seeing, and the voice actors out there should probably take note that if Toriyama and Toei look at this and they go, well, I mean, Funimation's gone. Like, Funimation has destroyed the Dragon Ball brand. We'll bring any other studio on. And, you know, they didn't hesitate to recast the Japanese cast for Dragon Ball Super. They would not hesitate. Bulma, Vegeta, all of them are very expendable. I mean,
especially when a lot of those gays have hurt now their reputation. Now they're even more expendable.
Yeah, I mean, I could do a Piccolo and a Vegeta in a pinch. They can certainly find someone better than me to do it, and find an equal replacement to Chris Sabat. The fact that they're contracting with Funimation is not a security blanket for Funimation. If they start interfering with the Japanese's money, they're gone. They're gone in a heartbeat. Why would they keep them? Who cares that Sony bought them? It's Sony America that bought them, not Sony Japan.
Do you think there's pressure coming from the East right now? Do you think that they're starting to notice this more as it continues onward and picks up momentum?
Yeah, I think every single minute that this is loud and that people start saying, like, if I put on my tinfoil hat, right, that button didn't break. The unsubscribe button didn't break. The unsubscribe button was disabled by Funimation because they were hemorrhaging money. And
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
My understanding is that they run on a pretty thin margin already. And if we're talking that they're hemorrhaging money where they're facing next month or the next month, maybe we don't make payroll if we keep losing subscribers. Tell you what, we'll disable this unsubscribe button by accident for a couple days. People will complain, but you know what? By the time we come back, think about it this way. What if that unsubscribe button was disabled moments after the lawyer for Vic contacted Funimation? Let's say that happened. Let's say that, or maybe even it wasn't that. Maybe even it was just moments after they heard that Vic was lawyering up and that Funimation was on the potential chopping block there. Let's say they disabled that unsubscribe button and said, look, part of our corporate strategy is we weather the bad PR of the unsubscribe button because we know that the favorable PR of having Vic back will be better than having to to get someone to resubscribe is to just delay their ability to unsubscribe until we've resolved this. If that's their plan, and I mean, this would never, ever come to surface, but if that's their plan, then they preserve subscribers. They release the information that Vic is back on board. The people who are like, you know what, screw Funimation are like, wait a minute. Okay, so Funimation got duped by a bunch of blue hairs. I'm okay with that. I'll stick. If they're going to stick with Vic, then I will stick with Funimation, and they don't have to recourt those subscribers. That is a brilliant plan. And
that's a good point too, because the people that would have unsubbed might have found an alternative source, you know, a different website or something that they like more. So even if they did bring Vic on at that point, they might still not even subscribe back because they have a new service they're using that they like.
Right. It's always easier to keep someone than to get their business back.
Well, how many VAs? And again, like I said, surface level, but do you think there's some kind of weird collective blue hair bargaining behind the scenes? Do you think that they tried approaching Funimation and they're like, you need to kick him and you need to keep him kicked, otherwise we're just all gonna walk?
I think that's very possible, personally.
Let me tell you what happened. I'll just tell you what my sources tell me. They tried to get Vic kicked on the sexual assault allegations, and as according to the IO9 article, the investigation came back inconclusive. They tried to do it before Broly was cast. When they heard Broly was being cast, they're like, you know what? We don't want Vic. Use the Japanese recast. And this is getting very specific. Use the Japanese recast as an excuse to recast Vic. And they said, no, Vic is like the most popular American voice actor. He's got the biggest fan draw at these conventions. He's great. We're going to keep him because he's been the voice of Broly for 20 years. Then Broly comes out, is super successful. Then let's say they come out and they say, you know what? If you didn't do it for the reasons that we stated with the investigation. Maybe they accused him of like wanting to rape little girls or something like that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's in an email somewhere.
Could be.
Right, voice actors. Maybe that was communicated somewhere. That you might have accused him of something so heinous with zero support, and they didn't believe you when they looked into it, and then the Broly movie came out, and then you all got together, including the ones who have been quiet, right? Like, because this wasn't just the two women. It wasn't just the two women.
The Me Too movement's a thing.
It's maybe people like Sean Schemmel and Chris Sabat, who haven't been too well. Sean was vocal until he nuked his like 400,000 follower Twitter. Good job. Hashtag bipolar. But maybe guys like Chris Sabat, who have been kind of quiet about it, maybe they were part of that blue hair cabal that said, look, if Vic doesn't go, we all go, and we raise a huge stink about it. And they're like, you know what? Fine. We cut him. We've got the movie. It was a huge success. You know, what are we worried about recasting Morose Mononokean? And then by the time the next Dragon Ball thing comes out, you know, we don't have to worry. That'll be years down the road. No one will care about that we're casting someone different, and all this is going to happen. Maybe that's the course of events that happened. Maybe they tried and failed, and then after it didn't work, they got together and came back with a different demand. I don't know. I'm just speculating, of course.
I think it's possible, but I think it goes even deeper, honestly, with the whole Anime News Network and Anime Feminists and all these people working together. It's just way too coincidental that they all have spoken to each other.
Yeah,
and then these articles all come out. It's just, yeah.
I mean, of course they did. And of course, these people have influence over their executives. And of course, they say they're going to walk. And of course, the guy whose recording studio they're using, Chris Sabat, says, I'm going to pull my recording studio from your thing, and you're going to have to find some other studio and not get to use it at that nice, comfy discount we've worked out, or whatever it is. And they suddenly have to scramble to record, say, their next show. They have to hire some recording studio that they have no experience with in the middle of Dallas. They're probably going to get gouged trying to get the scheduling right to start recording this show on such short notice. Like, there's a lot of leverage that these people have, and the fact that they would kick Vic off of these really thin allegations after deciding that they didn't have any merit. I mean, I don't know how anybody could allege a corporate conspiracy. And remember, if Funimation decides not to back the horse faces and they decide to back their own horse, guess what happens?
What I find, going off your hypothetical,
very hypothetical.
Very hypothetical. You would think somebody at Funimation, one of the bean counters or somebody with some sense, would say, if that hypothetical happened, if we bend the knee on this, they can do it to us on anything.
Of course.
They could throw a tantrum because they dislike an executive, or they dislike a certain cast member, or they dislike whatever. It doesn't even matter. They have us at gunpoint. They can just say, no more recording studio. We're not going to do voice acting for you. We're going to kick up a big stink. You've got to give in and acquiesce to all our demands whenever we feel like it, and you need to cater to us. And there's nothing worse than having a group of people that overreact to something that's not a big deal, or overreact to something that isn't even there, making demands on your company over and over again. Yeah, you'd think somebody high up would say, we don't really want to be in this situation. This is kind of suicidal from a business point of view.
Yeah, I mean, why would you hold yourself hostage to irrational people in business? It makes no sense. Of course they're going to want to get rid of this this image, and to the men involved in this. That is the funniest thing to me. You think, I mean, Vic thought these people were his friends up until the moment. Yeah, they acted like friends up, as recently as December and January. They're in pictures, hugging and tickling and laughing and smiling. It's a month and a half ago. It's amazing to think how recently this was.
Yeah.
To the men who sided with the women on this. You think you're not on the chopping block? You think You think the next time that you have a casting decision and you don't cast that lady, you think you're not next? I mean, do you honestly think that you've never hugged someone and made them uncomfortable? I mean, I've seen you guys. I know that if you hugged me, I would be spraying you with Raid immediately. So you think that there are already hundreds of pictures of these guys doing the exact same thing Vic is doing, hugging fans very tightly, face to face, kissing them, hugging them around the waist from behind, stuff like that. Of course, they all act like this, and these cucks think that the women will be on their side when they find out that they have all of the power merely by saying this happened. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? You should have, and I'm not saying they should come out and like verbally knife their women's friends, but maybe just say, you know what, like, is this the way we want to go about it? Like, is this honestly our plan here? Maybe we could take a long game and get him slowly removed and let the Twitter backlash against him or whatever, see how that plays out. But no, they couldn't do that. They couldn't wait. And these guys jumped in to support them behind the scenes or in front of the scenes. And it's embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing to think that they won't. Everybody thinks that they're not next on the Me Too chopping block, but you're all next, including the ladies. You're next too, because it's okay to be an elbow in 2019.
You're all gonna get lined up one by one. There's only gonna be one VA standing at the end of this contest.
It's a mess. It's a freaking mess.
Yeah, all you need is that guy from Police Academy. He could do all the voices and sound effects. Why are we hiring all these different people?
Problem solved. Yeah, let's fire the whole staff and just go with this one dude. He was great in those movies.
Yeah, it's I mean, but again, that's how these things always go. When you are supporting a cutthroat corporate culture, you're supporting the next person cutting your throat when you step out of line.
What I wonder the most is how much of the upper management behind the scenes like follows the same agenda, and how many of them really actually care about the monetary standpoint for the shareholders and all that.
Yeah, that's what I want to know. I want to know what the corporate culture is at that company, because I really don't have any clue. It could be staffed by soy latte drinking, skinny jean wearing, live pod having, super me tooing executives. Or it could be a dude that's just like money is all I care about. So
yeah, it's interesting.
Up until a month ago, the CEO was Jen Fuguyama or something.
Yeah, about a month ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like a conservative Christian Japanese guy, right? Like, is that?
I forget if his religion, his beliefs personally, but I know he was has some ties with what's his name? I think Ron. I'm trying to remember. I made a video on this a few days ago. And I already forget. I literally forget right now. Hold up.
There's so much information, but I believe that until he was removed as CEO, the corporate
Rick Santorum. That's what I'm looking for.
Oh yeah, he's like buddies with Rick Santorum. They're like neighbors or something.
A new company called Echo Light Studios.
Yeah. So up until a month ago, you're talking that the CEO of Funimation is friends with one of the most conservative Christian congressman that's identifiable, that has any notoriety, and was a like hardcore conservative Christian candidate for president in the past 2 elections. That friends and neighbors with Rick Santorum.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so I think maybe there was a move to get him out. I of course can't know what happened there, but the idea, again, of like creating, why would you ever want to create an environment where someone's baseless accusation has the power to end your job? It's all of these people are one-step thinkers. Over and over and over again, it shows they're one-step thinkers. And if they had thought through any of this, they would have realized that this wasn't the way. It wasn't the way to do it.
Well, it's fascinating to watch. Like I said, I kind of knew what was going on. I've heard bits and pieces. I got more interested, especially after seeing kind of that side's support from last night was really eye-opening, I guess. I don't know what they're dealing with. I have to jet. I've got my own show to do in the mornings. I got my full time to watch.
Where can people find you, Jim?
On YouTube at Mundane Matt. all the hottest videos you could ever want to watch and the best live streams that have ever existed. But
It was embarrassing when you cried.
Oof.
I know. I was so emotional about that button. What could I do? But no, thanks for having me on, guys. I enjoyed talking about it.
It was a pleasure, man.
I really hope I hope somebody in corporate just puts the brakes on. Put the brakes on. You know this is going to end in disaster. You know it. It's going to
Yeah.
fuck with your money. Don't let these people fuck with your money.
I'm
Your
shocked they haven't
company-
at least stopped them from like posting all the stuff that they're still posting on social media. At least doing that makes sense. I can't believe they haven't even done that.
Or fire him.
Yeah, right. Especially if your company is in a tenuous position where you're almost living month to month as far as finances go. This is just not a brilliant decision. But
Yeah.
take it easy, please. For the love of God, get more people like Shane on.
I will
That was
try.
so entertaining. I want to see more of these people. I want to watch you tear them apart. That's great stuff.
Okay, sounds good, buddy. And let me know when you want to do that 40K stream. I get calls for it every day.
Yeah, I will set that up with you. I'm looking forward to it. I've been reading a shit ton of Warhammer 40K stuff. I got a bunch of omnibuses, so I've been really good stuff. I didn't expect it to be as good a read as it was, but it's good stuff.
Yeah, man. I look forward to it too.
All right, take it easy, guys.
Peace.
Peace.